The real-life Fury tank in World War I. Fray Bentos survived in enemy territory for 3 days despite heavy enemy fire. World War I or the Great War was the world's bloodiest battle before World War II. World War I trenches were the spot where humankind fought some of the brutal wars. Tanks saw significant action for the first time in this war. One British tank stood on its ground against enemy fire for 3 days, just like the war macine in the movie Fury. The tank was Fray Bentos. World War I. Political struggles embroiled Europe before the advent of World War I. The nations of Europe were fighting to determine which power would dominate the continent. Wilhelm Kaiser II of Germany wanted to establish German dominance in Europe, which was against Britain's wishes. The German imperial court fought a pseudo-war with the British royal court, and all it needed was a spark to start a war. The spark came in the form of Gavrilo Princip, who assassinated Archduke Ferdinand of Austria. The Central Powers led by Germany declared war on the Entente Powers led by Britain. By 1917, diplomacy and fear had dragged the entire world into the European conflict. Japan, China, and the United States all joined the fighting. Technology in World War I. Technology saw full-scale use for the first time in World War I. Italy used airplanes to drop small bombs on enemy troops. Italy also used weather balloons to gauge enemy positions. Germany used poison gas like chlorine against enemy troops. Britain and France followed. The European war theatre entered a stalemate in the French-German border where both parties dug in for months as no resolution was in sight. Britain brought in its tanks to accelerate the offensive. Tanks in World War I were primitive. They were a living hell as heat and the debris from combat filled the tank with toxic elements. It was usual for armies to change tank drivers every day, and they wore a metal mask like a knight to save them from enemy fire. Tanks formed a crucial part in crossing enemy trenches and provided cover to advancing infantry. Fray Bentos was one of the tanks which saw action in the Battle of Passchendaele. Fray Bentos. The Fray Bentos was guided into the battlefield in Passchendaele by its captain Donald Richardson. He named the tank after a favorite food item of the same name. Captain Donald Richardson was injured by enemy fire and quickly slipped into the tank. A trench stopped the progress of Fray Bentos. 2 of the crew came out of the tank to prepare the tank to overcome the obstacle. German fire killed both of them. Fray Bentos now stood alone in enemy territory. Captain Donald Richardson thought if they can hold up for a day, British troops will come for rescue. Unfortunately, the British also attacked the tank as they don't want a fully intact tank falling into German hands. The Fray Bentos team fired the main cannon and silenced the machine guns in the vicinity. As they were low on ammo, the team used their handheld weapons and evaded the enemy fire. Fray Bentos stood its ground for 3 days. Captain Donald Richardson knew that help wouldn't arrive. He asked one of his tank mates to run to the British positions and inform them that they would abandon the tank and fall back. Captain Donald Richardson requested British troops to hold fire. The information reached British lines, and luckily, Captain Donald Richardson and his teammates reached British lines without an incident. World War I ended in favor of the victorious Entente Powers. The root cause of World War I was not solved, which prompted World War II, which killed more lives. The Germans captured Fray Bentos, and now it is restored and available for public view.